Live from KSAT 12, the 6 o'clock news starts right now.
And we begin tonight with a cold front on our doorstep with the potential for some storms.
Yeah, and a lot of people wondering, how's this going to time out, especially with Election Day? Let's check it with Adam Caskey. Adam.
I can tell you with a high degree of confidence that Election Day will be just fine and will actually clear out, and it's going to feel great. So if you're in a line outside, it's going to feel much better tomorrow. I want to talk about authority radar at the moment and some of this activity that we have that just popped up over the past 30 to 60 minutes, and we have this isolated downpour activity. Helotes to Leon Springs, over toward about Timberwood Park. This is all drifting off to the northeast. It's highly isolated right now, but it's going to become more numerous as over the next few hours, basically, as the night goes on, and even around Canyon Lake, some of this activity out there. Now, notice our rainfall chances peaking in the coming hours, especially between 8 p.m. and about 2 a.m. is when we think most of the action is going to be happening, with the potential of a few strong to severe storms. So even just with the lightning, we could have some power outages. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, localized wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour, a low to moderate risk of that, and a low to moderate risk of hail 1 inch in diameter in isolated neighborhoods. I've got the future cast, and I'm going to talk more about the impacts of not just this front, but another one in a few minutes.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Election Day just hours away. The results of it, though, well, those results could take a while longer.
Yeah, you remember the last presidential election took us into the weekend before it was called. Garrett Berger talked with a political science professor about what we can expect this time around.
The polls will close at 7 Tuesday night here in Bexar County. The Trinity professor, Juan Sepulveda, warns voters not to wait up on the presidential race.
Bottom line, when should we expect to know the results of the presidential election?
I give up. You tell me.
There are 7 battleground states whose electoral votes could go either way, plus Maine and Nebraska, where electoral votes could be split between the two candidates. Waiting on some of those contests could take time, even to just count early votes.
But Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, for example, they can't even start counting the ballots until Election Day. So we shouldn't be expecting full results from the blue wall states Tuesday night.
And Nevada could take a few days to get all its mail ballots in. Bottom line is, barring an unexpected blowout one way or the other, the results of the presidential race will likely take time.
It could be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, when I mentioned if Nevada and Arizona become key players in this, we may be looking at the end of the week or the beginning of the weekend. Right?
In Bexar County, things will be quicker, though that doesn't necessarily mean quick. Early vote totals will be out shortly after polls close, and the Elections Department will update the results in roughly 10% increases.
The Bexar County Elections Administrator says her staff prefers to get the unofficial results out the same day, but that may not happen this year.
I probably expect that we will be past midnight. I do, because it takes longer to harvest the votes.
If you're voting Tuesday, you can vote as long as you are in line by 7. Remember, there's no political clothing or cell phones at the polls, and most people will need one of the accepted forms of ID. If you don't have one, we lay out what you can do instead on our website. Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
And one thing we haven't talked about is also the Electoral College.
Oh yes, let's do that.
The Electoral College was a compromise that came about a long time ago to really make sure that small states still had a voice in the process.
So that the biggest states with the biggest populations don't determine every election.
This is not about whoever gets the most votes, right?
No matter the candidate that wins the popular vote, they still have to get 270 electoral votes. Texas has 40 electoral votes. Where's that number come from? It's the number of congressional districts in a state, plus votes for each senator. In Texas, that's 38 plus 2.
Most states, winner take all.
It's winner take all.
Which means that whoever wins the general in Texas, they get all of our
electoral votes.
But the majority of states, including the biggest in the U.S., like Texas, California, Florida, and New York, are solidly red or blue. That's why swing states are so critical to a campaign. They're the states that could swing either way, blue or red. There's just not that many of them these days.
This time around, folks from both sides, on the Republican and Democratic side, say that it's 5 to maybe 7 states. So Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, maybe North Carolina are the only states that are going to matter. So it's not a good thing for the country that most of the country doesn't really matter. I hate to say that, But that's the system we have, and if you're a campaign, you got to play the rules of what's in front of you.
That just a tiny segment of part of a KSAT Explains that we did on the Electoral College. All right, well, some Election Day reminders for anyone that plans on going to the polls tomorrow. Bexar County registered voters can vote at any polling area. Polling places are open from 7 in the morning till 7 tomorrow night. Be sure to bring your ID. Also, if you're in line to vote by 7 p.m., you will be able to cast your vote.
And tomorrow's news at 6 is a special Election Day edition. Our election coverage will start here at 6:30, half an hour before the polls close. We'll be looking at not just the presidential race, but state and local races as well. Our 6:30 coverage will also kick off our live stream, which lasts well beyond this newscast as results come in throughout the night. You can watch that stream on our website, the KSAT YouTube page, and the KSAT Plus app. A hearing today connected to the case of missing woman Suzanne Simpson. Attorneys for the business partner of Suzanne's husband want his bond reduced. James Cotter is charged with tampering with evidence and possession of a prohibited weapon. Investigators say that Cotter hid an illegal gun at the request of Brad Simpson, who is also in jail. He faces the same charges as Cotter, plus family violence charges. But Simpson has not been charged with Suzanne's disappearance. She was last seen in Olmos Park on October 7th. Today, Cotter's attorney tried to get his $1 million bond lowered, arguing it's unconstitutional for the charges and for someone with no criminal history.
The only reason the state wants these bonds high is to keep him incarcerated.
The state argued that Cotter was a flight risk and has not been forthcoming with authorities investigating Suzanne's disappearance. The judge wanted more information about Cotter's finances and delayed his decision until tomorrow afternoon. We'll let you know what happens.
A former Bexar County Precinct 2 captain fired after he was indicted alongside Michelle Barrientos Vela. He will not return to work.
Today, the County Civil Service Commission upheld that 2020 termination of Mark Garcia, saying that he demonstrated conduct unbecoming of an officer. Dylan Collier explains that ruling.
Cleared of criminal wrongdoing now more than 2 years ago, Mark Garcia's last step to reclaiming his law enforcement career was to win reinstatement. His attorney, Mark Anthony Sanchez, argued today that Garcia's reputation was unreasonably harmed by being part of the administration of Michelle Barrientos Vela, the one-time constable for the West Side Precinct, and that the ex-captain had followed the rules and had not unfairly targeted deputies who worked under him.
We don't judge cases on a guilt by association standard.
While Garcia was granted immunity in his perjury and official oppression criminal cases in exchange for testifying against his former boss, Barrientos Vela was convicted of felony tampering with records without Garcia ever taking the stand. The ex-constable's convictions, it's important to note, were overturned by a state appeals court last month.
There is quite a bit of testimony about this.
But the damage to Garcia's career had apparently already been done. After briefly deliberating the evidence, commissioners upheld Garcia's termination, stating there was credible evidence that he had demonstrated conduct unbecoming of an officer.
Well, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a big disappointment.
Current Precinct 2 Constable Leticia Vasquez, whose firing of Garcia was one of her first official acts after taking office, said commissioners made the right decision.
I am relieved, because my office, I wasn't there. I can't say what they actually went through, but hearing the same stories over and over and over, it has to mean something.
Garcia has up to 30 days to appeal the commission's ruling. If he does, it will next go to a hearing before a state district judge. Reporting downtown, Dylan Collier, KSAT 12 News.
Nearly a year to the day after being found not guilty of assault, a former junior high school teacher has filed a federal lawsuit claiming he was wrongfully arrested and maliciously prosecuted. David Schachter's suit states that the Wimberley Independent School District and its officials and members of the Hays County Sheriff's Office gave into rumors and filed false information against him after two female students accused of him inappropriately touching them in class in the fall of 2022.
Everything around this, is the exact opposite of who I am, my identity, and my personality.
Tonight on the Night Beat, Schachter's attempts to clear his name and the missteps from law enforcement exposed by state records the Investigates team uncovered. And right now on KSAT.com, scan the QR code on your screen to read about the full investigation.
It is day 3 on the job for San Antonio's new fire chief, Valerie Frosto, and she spent part of that day sitting down with our Courtney Friedman for her first one-on-one TV interview.
Okay, so it's day 3. How does it feel? How you doing?
You know, it's really unbelievable, actually. I don't think it's sunk in just yet.
Frosto talked about her 24 years at SAFD that led her to this moment. She says it comes with pressure, especially being the first woman to become San Antonio's fire chief, something she does not take lightly. She also opened up about landing the job on the heels of a predecessor who came under fire for comments about women. And she said she plans to make rounds of visits to her 2,000 employees before enacting changes that she believes are needed.
And it's really with morale, with communication, with transparency and accountability. It's all of those things. Operationally, I think we're very sound. We're a really good, top-notch organization. But I think there's just those little tweaks that we need to make.
We also asked Frosto about her relationship with the fairly new fire union president. She described it as positive. That full story is coming up tonight at 10 o'clock, and that entire interview will be on our website at KSAT.com. As the Spurs gear up for a West Coast road trip, they'll be without a familiar face for the first time in decades.
Greg Popovich staying home as the Silver and Black head to California. Larry Ramirez with what he knows about the situation and what it means for the Spurs moving forward, Larry.
Well, moving forward, certainly Mitch Johnson will take over as acting head coach. So details are limited for sure, but we do know that Pop is not with the team in Los Angeles. The Spurs said that Pop didn't make the trip to L.A. and that he will not be with them Wednesday in Houston to face the Rockets. Pop is 75 and he missed Saturday night's home win against Minnesota with what the Spurs are calling an undisclosed sickness. In making the announcement to reporters before the game, a Spurs team spokesman said that Coach Pop was under the weather. Tom Orsborn is reporting today that a league source told him that Pop is okay, but he just needs rest. Assistant coach Mitch Johnson will handle the head coaching duties for an indefinite amount of time. So the Spurs did not hold morning shoot around in Los Angeles, where they'll face the Clippers tonight at 9:30 local time. And Coach Johnson is scheduled to meet with the media before the game. Steve, Myra.
And of course, we'll continue following it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Larry. Yep. Damage still lingering months after an explosion in Floresville. Why the cleanup in all this? You remember this video? Why the cleanup is stalled still.
Let's take a look outside right now. Traffic here at I-35 at New Braunfels. Look at all those headlights this time of day with the time change. Very slow going in these northbound lanes as it has been over the last hour or so. Here I-35 north at New Braunfels. Well, the seasons may have changed, but it seems little else has in Floresville after a gas line explosion this past summer. Remember this video?
Yeah, homes there still showing the damage that was done. Katrina Weber shows us what may be keeping the repair work in a holding pattern.
Even from miles away, it was clear this was bad news. Black smoke and flames coming from one home, damage done to others. This was from a gas line explosion in July, reportedly triggered by a crew digging underground. In this Floresville neighborhood now, not a lot has changed. The home leveled is still in ruins, and blown-out windows are boarded up.
It's very unusual.
Aaron Gonzalez is still getting used to living around the corner from it all. Although he moved into the neighborhood after the explosion, he still feels the loss.
Did you think that this would still be the situation now in November?
I mean, no, I think it's just, it's very disheartening. Like, people are still without their home.
The entire block near 9th and 8th Streets looks like a ghost town.
People here had to leave their homes in an instant. But the big question, even after all these months, that still is unanswered, is when they'll be able to come back home.
I did not think it would be this long, but I do understand it's got to be a thorough investigation.
Assistant City Manager Monica Veliz says everyone is still waiting to hear from the Texas Railroad Commission, which has been looking into the cause of the explosion, figuring out who should pay.
We have tried, everything in our power that we can, and we've reached out to our state representative now to try and obtain that report.
In the meantime, the wheels of progress here, repairing and rebuilding, may be stuck in place. Katrina Weber, KSAT 12 News.
I just keep thinking about all the homeowners that are stuck in place. They can't do anything with their property right now.
Still waiting, for sure. We'll stay on top of it, see what comes next. Look outside. Look, it's dark. 6:17. It's the overnight hours, Adam, that we're watching for these storms.
Well, even just later this evening and into the overnight hours, yes. And we're already seeing some development, but this is just shower activity, just some good heavy rain in some spots. Now, you look at it on authority radar, a little bit far off to the east from Hallettsville down toward Victoria, but closer to the cold front that's slowly moving in. This is the activity that we have right now. We'll just take a look at the last 30 minutes and you see how these showers pop up and they're moving to the northeast at roughly 20 miles per hour, even eastern Gillespie County getting in on some of that action. So let's go to, say, these downpours right here. You see all these downpours, and can time some of this out for you. For example, this one right here, that downpour headed northeast at about 20 miles per hour, making it to Lindendale at 7:21 p.m. So that's moving through eastern Kendall County, and then Bulverde getting a quick splash at the moment. But you see this development keeps popping up. That's the good thing. Even around Leon Springs, we're starting to see some of that heavy rain. It's brief for now, but we expect the radar to fill in more as the night goes on. Take a look at this Futurecast, for example. The showers and then thunderstorms becoming more numerous as the hours go by this evening. You may be watching Monday Night Football. I'll be live on the KSAT Weather Authority app, tracking any severe weather that's out there, even just notable thunderstorms. And through midnight is when we should really start to see it peak around San Antonio. By about 2 a.m., it starts to move out of San Antonio and push eastward along the coastal plain and closer to the Gulf Coast. And then we start the day tomorrow. I know the Futurecast shows these little showers. I think most of that's going to be virga, the rain that evaporates before it hits the ground, because tonight's cold front will drop the humidity and dry us out. Here's the cold front. Again, it's on our doorstep. Behind it, some cooler air. We'll get to temperatures in a moment, but I do want to point out already widespread severe thunderstorms in parts of eastern Oklahoma from this front. And then you see how this line is starting to fill in southward just over the past few hours. This is the cold front, and the broken line of storms along it starting to fill in a little bit better, and we'll continue to see that trend. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the biggest risk of severe storms, we're at a 1 here, but you notice how that gets more significant as you go up toward Dallas and even into Oklahoma. Then we have another good chance of rain Thursday at 60% and Friday at 40%. I like these changes that we're seeing. Here's a look at temperatures with that front. 65 in Dallas, 55 in Lubbock, Amarillo 47. Meanwhile, we were 90 degrees earlier today here in San Antonio. Let's talk about the temperature changes. 70s tomorrow. We'll have clouds early, then sunshine, low humidity, low to mid 70s for highs. 73 Bernie, 75 Poteet, 75 San Antonio. Wednesday morning, feeling like fall. Widespread 40s in outlying areas, 52 degrees for the sunrise temperature in San Antonio on Wednesday. And then we see those rain chances, more clouds, humidity returns for just 2 days, Thursday and Friday. But man, another cold front Friday paves the way for a beautiful weekend. Comfortable, pleasant.
That'll be nice. Thank you, Adam.
All right, it felt like the Spurs beating the Minnesota Timberwolves was a huge victory.
Yeah.
Do the Spurs agree with that, Larry?
Well, they're pretty low-key about it, I think, when you ask them that, right? They're not going to get too excited right now. This early in the season is still early, yes. I mean, they're 3-3, but the team is definitely coming together, says sixth man Keldon Johnson. And in high school football, our game of the week, we'll see the Brandeis Broncos taking on the Reagan Rattlers. We got a preview coming up.
He's not feeling well. You know, this has happened before. Sometimes people get sick or don't feel well or things come up in life, and he's just not feeling well.
That's Mitch Johnson Saturday night talking about why Coach Papa wasn't leading the Spurs in big board sports. As we talked about earlier in the show, Spurs head coach Greg Popovich suffered a health issue before Saturday's home win against the Timberwolves, and assistant coach Mitch Johnson is expected to act as head coach for an indefinite period of time per Shams. Now, Pop is 75 years of age and will not travel with the team to Los Angeles and Houston for games tonight and Wednesday per the Spurs. Tom Osborne is reporting today that a league source told him that Pop is okay, but he just needs rest. Now, when it comes to the game action, the Spurs beat the Timberwolves Saturday night, 113-103 for their second win in a row. The Spurs are now 3-3 and showing signs of improvement, says sixth man Keldon Johnson.
Like we said, I mean, it takes time. You don't just be good overnight, you know. And game by game, we figuring it out. We getting better each and every game, and you know, we learn each other more and more. Learning where players like the ball and things like that. And you know, really, our defense is what's been you know, the bright light for us. And as we work through everything else, so.
The Spurs will play at the LA Clippers tonight, the brand new Intuit Dome, where the Clippers are winless this season, and Trey Jones is still out for the Spurs with a right ankle sprain. We stopped by Reagan High School this morning to hang out with the Rattlers, who are getting ready to play Brandeis in our game of the week. Winners of 3 in a row, the Rattlers are playoff bound. This after they started the season 3-3. They beat Clark Friday night 49-12 to grab second place in District 27 6A, heading into their regular season finale.
You know, it was really important for us to help us instill some confidence in us, show us that we could really play a complete ball game. You know, on both sides of the ball, start fast, finish strong. So that's what we're really excited about, and that's what we really like seeing at the end of the season.
Yeah, no, it's really important. You know, last game before playoffs start, it's technically a playoff game itself. So, I mean, playing a good opponent, get us ready for the playoffs. So, I mean, this is where we got to peak. This is the game of the year that we got to peak. So, and show our best ability. So, I think this game is really important.
And we stopped by Brandeis High School this afternoon, where the Broncos were getting ready for the biggest game of their regular season. The Broncos are 6-3 this season and 4-2 in District 27 6A. They beat the Roosevelt Rough Riders 51-7 Saturday to keep their playoff chances alive. Now, they are tied with Clark for third place, and there's a lot going on with this game. Here's Coach Lewis to break it down.
So the scenario is for us to get into the playoffs. If Clark wins versus Johnson on Thursday, then we're in. If Clark doesn't win on Thursday, we have to win out on Friday to get into the playoffs. So if Churchill loses to Lee, then we're in as well.
Well, we got to win. We got to win either way. It's treated like any other game. You got to win, got to make it to playoffs, and, you know, do it Bronco way, Bronco pride.
This game is very important. I feel like the momentum from the last game, we're all coming out ready. We're all feeling great. We're all very confident in each other. I'm very confident in what our coaches have planned for us, everything.
Brandeis versus Reagan this Friday night, 7:30 at Comalander Stadium is our game of the week, and it's one of 14 games we have scheduled to get.
I kind of feel like we needed a flow chart for the Brandeis. Oh, just win.
There's a lot to it.
Like the kids said, just win.
Just win, yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry.
We'll be right back.
There are some security concerns ahead of what could be a historic election. Campaign officials across the country taking extraordinary steps to protect election workers.
From bulletproof glass to a panic button for workers to call police and concerns about hacking. ABC's Alexis Christoforous reports from New York.
As the final hours to Election Day tick away, election officials across the country are making sure their workers and the results are secure.
To be clear, Election Day is a no-fail mission.
In Detroit, bulletproof glass and a panic button for workers to call police who will be stationed around the building, even on the roof. At this vote counting site in Maricopa County, Arizona, metal detectors, armed guards, surveillance cameras, and if necessary, a SWAT team.
We don't want to intimidate anybody. We just want to make sure that the people inside that building are secure.
In Georgia, where there were alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 results, the NYPD Intelligence Bureau saying they found posts on several online platforms threatening the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, some calling for his execution. Raffensperger assuring the public the process is secure.
At the end of the day, it's going to be fair and fast and accurate.
In the nation's capital, security fences installed as intelligence officials warn Russia and Iran may consider encouraging violent protests following the election. The FBI setting up a central command post.
The FBI is looking at all those threats that come in. Here in the command post, we're triaging that information, and we can disseminate that information to the key partners, which is state and local officials around the United States.
Despite the concerns, Homeland Security officials say it will be safe to vote and that for 97% there will be a paper record of how they cast their vote, meaning multiple ways to confirm the accuracy of voting results. They also add voting machines are virtually impossible to hack because they're not connected to the internet. Alexis Christoforous, ABC News, New York.
As officials prepare for Election Day, voters in 10 states will go to the polls with a chance to vote on the future of abortion access in their states. Most of the proposed ballot measures aim to place the right to an abortion in state constitutions. That's after a series of restrictive abortion policies took effect after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade back in 2022.
All this information on our website, KSAT.com. Other important voting resources, guidelines there as well. Scan this QR code right on your screen to stay in the loop for Election Day.
Around America now, Americans who bought homes for the first time between July 2023 and June 2024 were older and wealthier than in previous years. That's according to a new survey from the National Association of Realtors. The survey found first-time home buyers had a median household income of $97,000. That's up from $95,900 last year. And the median age of first-time buyers rose to a new record high of 38 years old. The report underscores the intensifying struggle that many Americans face when buying a home. Prices have rapidly climbed to near record levels, and mortgage rates have remained stubbornly high.
It is back to reality for the alcohol industry. The incredible surge in sales it saw during the COVID-19 pandemic has come to a screeching halt. Inflation-weary customers now pushing back on expensive booze, it seems, and that's hurting bottlers' bottom line. Some of the world's biggest alcohol makers have recently reported declines in volumes of sales. All major categories affected, including tequila, American whiskey, beer, wine. Instead of buying pricey bottles, customers are choosing lower-priced items like beer and ready-to-drink canned cocktails. Those generally cost less on a per-serve basis. They're also leaning towards cheaper private labels, like those offered at discount grocery chains.
Childhood obesity is a problem that seems to be getting worse.
Yeah, according to the CDC, obesity rates have increased dramatically the past 2 decades, but it can be prevented. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood with steps that families can take.
Obesity is a growing problem for young people across the U.S. And according to the CDC, obesity rates among school-aged children aged 2 to 19 jumped from nearly 14% in 1999 to more than 20% in 2023. Severe obesity rising from more than 3.5% to 7%.
We cannot, from a public health standpoint, ignore what is happening to rates of childhood obesity. And in 20 years from now, we need to see a reversal of the trend.
Childhood obesity is defined as having a body mass index, or BMI, greater than or equal to the 95th percentile.
And what we do know is about 40 to 60% of school-age children who are obese will go on to have obesity as adults. And obesity itself is a risk factor for many diseases, including type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, liver disease, joint disease, breathing issues, and even certain types of cancer.
But parents and family members can take action.
Good, healthy habits that tackle obesity start early. They start in the home, and very small habits can make a lifetime of difference.
This includes putting in place a healthy eating pattern. Frozen and canned fruits and vegetables are often less expensive than fresh and are still good for you. Just look for low sodium options. Also, watch kids' sugar intake.
Just say no to the sweetened beverages, the juices and the sodas. Those are empty calories. Kids don't need them. And model good behavior by not having one also.
And don't use sweets as a reward.
Reward them with something else, like an activity, arts and crafts, anything other than sweet treats.
The CDC recommends setting consistent sleep routines and replacing screen time with family time. And being active as a family is a great way to limit that screen time and keep kids moving, like walking the dog before and after school, riding bikes, and having races in the yard.
Or even having an impromptu dance party like I did with my daughter this morning. That's a quick way to get 10 to 15 minutes of activity.
And if you have any concerns, check in with your doctor. They can provide information on specialized programs to help you and your family. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, New York.
Severe weather was the theme of the weekend for our northern neighbors in Oklahoma. A closer look at that damage when we come back.
A weather alert in the heartland where there are threats of more tornadoes and flash flooding.
A state of emergency in Oklahoma where at least 5 tornadoes touched down over the weekend, damaging dozens of homes and leaving thousands of people without power. ABC's Alexis Christoforous with the latest.
Strong storms sweeping through Oklahoma, a threat of more severe weather a day after an outbreak of tornadoes. Residents in Oklahoma City cleaning up after an EF3 tornado hit. Neighborhoods just outside the capital decimated, roofs ripped off of homes.
It was really, really heavy rain that woke us up and some thunder. Then the train came over our roof. You know, it was pretty loud, pretty powerful.
Thousands of customers without power, nearly a dozen people injured. Oklahoma's governor issuing an emergency declaration for 6 counties.
We've got more storms coming, so don't rely on the sirens. Make sure you're watching your news and your cell phones, taking cover when you can.
Heavy rains complicating recovery efforts.
Had a lot of flash flooding in the area that we responded to, some stranded vehicles, some high water situations.
Cars flipped over and piled in yards. A pickup truck crushed underneath a power line.
As Oklahomans, as a 4th generation Oklahoman, you think, man, it could never hit me. But you've got to be really, really cautious, because when you have an EF3 or EF4, they can do significant damage.
The state is making sure that polling stations are up and running for Election Day. The governor says if there are any issues at polling places, voters will be rerouted to other locations to cast their ballots. Alexis Christoforous, ABC News, New York.
Luckily, things weather-wise for us on Election Day looking all good, but it's the changes in these temperatures with this cold front, Adam, we're looking forward to.
Some rain would be awesome.
Yes, and we've really been focusing on the rain and storm potential for tonight, and we will get back to that in one moment. I want to talk about our temperature changes coming our way. 90 was our high temperature today, just 4 degrees shy of the record, and the average is 76. We're going to get there again by tomorrow. But you notice today we had low 90s in a good chunk of our area. That changes. Tomorrow we're at 75, up near 80 Wednesday and Thursday, then another drop into the 70s by this upcoming weekend. Even more significant drop in morning temperatures. We'll get to that and the latest on the new storms that have popped up in just a bit.
Looking at the possibility of some storms with this cold front, Adam, but rain already out there on the radar right now.
Some activity.
Yeah, already some activity and development, and it's just going to become more numerous as the hours go on tonight. Even past midnight, we'll have this activity out there. Now, looking at authority radar, right now, most of it basically around Bernie and Fair Oaks Ranch. This is just mostly south of Bernie, stretching to the northeast into Kendall County and up into Blanco County. This is all pushing to the north at about 20 miles per hour, and there's a bit of lightning with some of this now. Notice those lightning strikes that we have. Those white lines are the cloud-to-ground lightning strikes, and the storm just outside of Bernie just started producing some lightning a little bit ago. And this is going to become more common. And do keep in mind that with, a lot of lightning within these storms, it increases the possibility of power outages. So that's one thing just need to be prepared for tonight, just in case. We'll go over the other threats in just a minute, but I want to show you the direction these are moving. They're basically moving to the north-northeast as they build along the cold front that's moving into town momentarily. And even in Medina County, farther to the southeast, we have some action. And then a little bit of isolated activity out ahead of it, closer to the Gulf Coast, but not a whole lot out there to speak of. Again, these showers and storms becoming more numerous. Futurecast is on board with this. We have the conditions there, the moisture, the instability, and the cold front to trigger the storms and help basically lift the air to realize that instability that we have. And there will be some embedded downpours with some decent accumulations for some of the luckiest and most fortunate neighborhoods. Just keep in mind, this rain could come at a little bit of a cost with that severe potential of localized wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour and even localized hail about 1 inch in diameter. I think the primary threat will be about through 2 a.m. Then most of the action is pushing off to the east. And I know we see some sprinkles here at sunrise tomorrow. That's possible, but I think a lot of that will be evaporating before it hits the ground in the morning hours tomorrow. Notice that spike in our rain chances, especially around the midnight hour, give or take a little bit overnight tonight. There is a slight chance of localized flooding and a very slight chance of a rogue tornado, but it's primarily a low to moderate risk of those isolated straight line winds up to 60 miles per hour and the potential of localized hail up to about 1 inch in diameter. Here's the big picture. There's the cold front again. It's right on our doorstep, and most of the severe activity so far has been in Oklahoma and parts of North Texas closer to Dallas. But as we get more development on the south end here, see just over the past few hours, it really starts to fill in on the radar closer to us. That's when our potential goes up. We talked about that and more rain chances Thursday and Friday. So this isn't it. We'll have a good soaker now later tonight, but also Thursday, Friday. 40 to 60% chance there. Temperature-wise, behind the front, we have 60s, 50s, and even 40s, but also lower dew points. It is so sticky out there today. Dew point, tropical category, 72 degrees. This changes. The humidity gets swept away with the cold front tonight. It's gone for 2 days, comes back for 2 days on Thursday and Friday, and then it gets swept away for the weekend and even into next week. So tomorrow morning, low clouds, maybe stray sprinkle or two at 63, 75 and sunny tomorrow afternoon with the low humidity. Better yet, look at Wednesday morning. We're going to be in the 40s in outlying areas and 52 in San Antonio. How does that sound for a fall-like feel?
I like it. Finally.
Yeah, really. All right, we've got some modern day Bob the Builders coming up in the bus. To the buzz and take a look at a tiny home designed and built entirely by these Alaska 8th graders. The students set out on a project last year in an effort to learn about real-world solutions to real-world problems like homelessness.
These cozy dwellings, built for less than $4,000, will eventually be donated to an area church that's doing a drive to combat the city's housing issue. But these students, they aren't slowing down here. Furniture for these homes is up next.
See? Modern day Bob the Builders.
There you go.
All right, a California University's annual event of pitting pumpkins against gravity in the name of science puts the fall in Fall Festival fun. Chico State's annual pumpkin drop experiment uses pumpkins aplenty to teach the principles of physics and gravity to elementary school students.
Why is this so satisfying? From setting them on fire or filling them with water to, of course, launching them to their pulpy doom from a great height, organizers say the annual event allows young minds to access complex scientific concepts in a fun way and a messy way.
Poor pumpkins.
But really fun.
Yeah. There were a lot of pumpkins harmed in this experiment. We'll be right back.
One last reminder before we go here. Tomorrow's news at 6 is a special edition, an Election Day edition, starting at 6:30. Steve, Stephanie, and I will host an Election Day special.
Yeah, you can watch it on any of the KSAT streaming platforms. We are both on live stream and on air from 6:30 to 7. From 7 o'clock on, though, until at least 10 o'clock, we are going to be online only on all of our KSAT streaming platforms. In-depth analysis of elections here in San Antonio, Texas, across the country. We also have reaction, but the biggest thing we want to bring you is a night full of results. Not just results from the presidential race and the balance of power. We want to talk about the local races and the state races that matter here in San Antonio and South Texas.
Yeah, we've got plenty of those to watch. And one more thing as far as timing goes, we should point out, 7 o'clock. If you're in line, you still can vote. I think that's important for people to remember. You can still vote if you're in line at 7 o'clock when the polls close. Adam, Election Day seems to be just fine as far as weather goes. It's tonight we're looking at.
Election Day is going to be great. If you're waiting outside, you're going to enjoy it, actually. Comfortable, cooler. The storms are starting to fill in. I'll be live on the KSAT Weather Authority app covering it as needed this evening.
Thanks for watching the news.
See you after the game.